Fairview's coffee has mysteriously gone missing. Mayhem ensues when strange, coffee-craving zombies plague the city. Detective Mickey Potatoes, an overworked public servant, uncovers why ordinary citizens are losing their minds and how to stop the coffee apocalypse. But it involves the mafia. And when you're dealing with mafia crime families, nothing is ever easy. The mafia controls everything in the city, including the police, including him. If he breaks the mafia, they will break him. So, the city is without coffee. The city is burning before his very eyes, but he's powerless. Detective Potatoes has the power to stop the coffee apocalypse, but if he does, he could lose everything.
Oh man, I wish I could find a way to better advertise Apothic Press.
Just back it already.
Whoa, Crom, what are you doing here? What's this? The Madness Roku Network. Sponsorship. 1 month of playing your 30-second ad on the network 3 times a day? Oh my gosh, for $20? And you can't beat that.
Just back it already.
All right, Crom, I'm doing it. Awesome. Hi, I'm Tanner Hurley, founder of Apothic Press. I back the Madness Roku Network, and so should you.
Boys and girls, this is Ron from Romo Art, also from Sector 7. Alright, take 2. Nope. What's up?
Hello. How you doing, buddy?
Man.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, how come? That whole tire fiasco I was hearing about.
The tire. Yesterday, I tried to. So I have a 3-bedroom, and I have 3 kids, and again, each kid has a bedroom, so that's kind of left Dad out of the loop for a while. Been sleeping in the pop-up camper since it got warm enough to do so. And I was just trying to find a solution to that finally. Last winter, I basically slept in a recliner all winter. So yesterday I was trying to get a full-size bed upstairs, and it's just in this little hub hallway. It's really not a room. It's kind of like a small room that all the other bedrooms and the bathroom are connected to. But regardless, it's not going to fit in there, this full-size bed. So I really need and the funny thing was, like, the box springs won't even fit up the stairs. Just highlighting all the reasons.
Your stairs are freaking like ridiculous, though, dude.
I hate my stairs. I
hate your stairs too.
Whoever designed this home.
Yeah.
It's weird because people are like, "Oh, you have a big house," and it's like, yeah, but it's the design of it is so dumb. Like, it's like 1,400 square feet, so it's big, but it's not like gigantic or anything.
Your house looks bigger on the outside.
It does, yeah. It really does.
It does look bigger
inside. Yeah. Like, if this house were like 4 feet wider, like it would really,
yeah, you're right. Like just 4 feet.
Yeah, it really just needs like a few extra feet on the one side, and all the other. Yeah. It would just be a lot better. But regardless, so I'm back to the drawing board on that. The truck today, then like the wind took like the vent flap on my camper off, which I luckily was able to fix. But it's just been a day. Like, I'm just tired.
I forgot that you would have had the day off today.
Yeah. Today's what? Hang on, I got to be PC for a second. Indigenous Peoples Day, Columbus Day, because that's what it's forever now. And mistake or not, he still is historically significant. So whatever.
I don't think he existed, but that's just my crazy brain. Exactly. I know. I don't give a shit. I don't believe a goddamn thing ever taught to me in this fucking world anymore. Nothing. Now it's up to everyone to prove to me that it did happen, because I don't know anything anymore. But I'll tell you what definitely happened. Tobey Maguire, Spiderman, all 3 of them, and we're going to talk about that today, because we got through the other ones. We got through the other ones last week. That was a good time. But you want to start backwards again? You want to start with the third one? Because that'd be the easiest one to pick the fuck apart.
It is and it isn't. Like, I definitely have a love-hate relationship with that one. Before we start,
I'll say that's the one that fell apart over time for me. The other 2 didn't, but the third one, really, I really loved. I loved in the theater, and then it fell apart over time. And now I still like it, but it doesn't hold up like it did the first time I saw it. Really. Real
quick, there was one cool thing that happened to me today. I'm gonna pause for just a second. Cool thing. Yeah, I was at the Goodwill and I got a hardcover Killing Joke and the entire Frank Miller Daredevil run in trade paperback form for like $4. It was like
holy
awesome.
Shit.
I'm so excited because I have the Killing Joke in paperback, but not a hardcover one. And then the Frank Miller it's still only a paperback, but I don't care. I have the whole completed set, all in one now. So
that's
now
awesome, dude. Holy shit.
That's a couple solid books for a thrift store find. But anyway, so the third one took a while to fall apart for you.
Yeah, it did. It really did. I mean, I'm not saying that I loved, Venom from the beginning. I really didn't love their Venom, but it definitely, it took a few watchings before I'm like, oh, that line was really shitty, and a lot of it fell flat for me after a while. So I saw it in the theater. When I saw it in the theater,
Me too.
The only other thing that was kind of at that level of special effects at that time, I think, was like Transformers. It was like the first one. So
See, that would have been
Spider-Man-
2007.
I don't know. Like,
No.
I don't know when they came out. I know they came out probably within just a few years.
The first one was, I think, 2001. I want to say
That's
Spider-Man
the
2
first
was 04.
Okay.
And then I want to say Spider-Man 3 was 07, but I could be off on that.
Okay. Well, it was around the same time. And the thing that struck me was in Spider-Man 3, I was seeing visuals. I remember actually coming home and I was talking to my mom about that me and I was dating Val at that time, but me and my friend Val went and saw it, and I said, this is the first time where I feel like I saw comic book visuals in a movie. So for me, it was like the first time that the CGI was so big that I was like, wow, so now comic books definitely have a run for their money. Because you could always kind of count, like if you read like an X-Men comic, they couldn't do in movies what an X-Men comic looked like. The budget would have been unreal because X-Men is very sci-fi, actually. You know what I mean? There's a lot of shit happening. And when I saw Spider-Man 3, I was really kind of amazed at what I was able to see. And I'll tell you what, Sam Raimi can do some good visuals because a lot of that shit, CGI-wise, still holds up. Really, really good stuff.
I would say that's true for the most part. Yeah, because even going back to the first one, you saw how far it had come. Like when the Goblin bombs the board members, and they all turned to skeletons there.
Yeah,
it looks very very fake. So to see how far they came in those few short years is pretty impressive. So
that's what amazed me. It really, like, I was awestruck. I was like, wow, I'm watching something that probably a few years ago I could only get from a comic. And I'm like, it's pretty much, I had like an moment. You know what I mean? I'm like, now it's comics it might be coming down a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I was definitely impressed with some of the visuals. I think Sandman really was probably the thing that sticks out the most to me in that movie. Just the way he was animated was super impressive. And even Venom to a certain extent. But my thing about it that stuck out to me wasn't about so much of the visuals. It was about the story. The plot, the direction, the acting, all this stuff is very entertaining to me. Even the cheesy lines, I kind of love still. Like, even oh man, there's just so many parts of that
there's something about Sam Raimi's directing style where cheesiness actually works. Now, I think it goes too far sometimes, but Sam Raimi, there's something about his style where it's very quirky and it works for Spider-Man.
Yeah, it really does. And I just love the I'll never forget what's his name, James Franco's line where he's eating the pie and he's like, oh, it's so good. Like, I just laugh every time. So I do, but even that, like, to me it was like, I don't know, I think it worked really well, and I chuckle every time I see it, and it's one of those things. But that movie, for me, it was mostly about just the pacing was really bad. And we know why it was really bad, because he shoved in Venom. And that was, I kind of am a little bitter about Venom because I really wanted to see Venom on the screen. Venom's been one of my favorite Spider-Man villains for a very long time. But at the same time, I think it hurt the movie overall, him being in it.
That was the biggest gripe for people. And here's the thing. I don't even want to say Venom. I actually want to say the actor. I forget his name.
Topher Grace.
I think it was him. Because I gotta say, I like that Venom better than I like the Tom Hardy's Venom, even though Tom Hardy's Venom is bigger. You know what I mean? He's definitely bigger. I just can't stand those Venom movies. I can't stand either one. I think they make too many jokes. I just don't like. I don't know.
It wasn't. Yeah, they never really anything Sony's done, like in the past 10 years, has not really appealed to me.
Like so, like the Venom in the Tobey Maguire movies, when it was a liquid, like it was amazingly animated. Like when it would crawl, it actually formed like fingers, and it would crawl like up his bed. It was so fucking cool. And it really, again, I thought the symbiote, when he was ripping it off in the cathedral, those effects were unreal, dude. It was so
I
good.
agree.
And I thought those were I thought that was very comic book accurate. No, I don't believe that Topher Grace was comic book accurate or even palpable as a character. But
I think he was okay. Like he played, I think, the part he was given, which is kind of this like snotty, snobbish little, you wanted to call him a tool the entire time. Like, you know what I mean? And I think that was how he was directed to play it. So I think he did an okay job of that.
What they did that I think pissed most people off, and this is the part where once someone said it, I couldn't not see it because it didn't really bother me at first, was the fact that it kept, like, the Venom head kept just morphing back to Topher Grace.
Oh, yeah, I didn't get to that part yet. That's one of my bigger gripes. Yeah.
And I think, so everyone says Venom was the problem. I don't think Venom was the problem. I think Venom was very comic book accurate. I think the fact that Topher needed more face time on the screen was the problem.
Right. No, I agree with that too.
I want to be specific about what went wrong.
Yeah, no, and that's a great point. And actually one that I was going to bring up is like, they just wouldn't let him be Venom. Like he had to be Topher, Eddie Brock. Yeah. And I don't care. I don't want to see Topher. If I never see Topher Grace's face in anything ever again, I'd be perfectly okay with that. I think he did a serviceable job as the actor, but like you said, they just kept peeling the Venom mask away to show him, and I just had no interest in seeing him. Even in Spider-Man 1 with Green Goblin, they didn't do that, and that was Willem Dafoe, who I could make the argument should have had way more rights to show his face on screen than that guy does.
Willem Dafoe should have had some prosthetics, and it should have been his face. He's terrifying.
He is terrifying.
He's just fucking terrifying as a human being. I've never seen anyone with a face like that in my life, and I would never want to, honestly. He's just, no one looks like him. It's weird.
I think it's that with the voice. The voice is so intimidating that he has. But to kind of stay on 3 for a minute, a lot of people complain about the cheesy dance sequence, like where he's strutting down, the street I think did we both actually? There it is. There he is. Didn't we both like it? Like, I do like it. I don't.
Not that there's swaths of fans watching this right now, but we actually liked it. Like it was so stupid. It is
stupid, but it's so even in that moment, like where Peter is clearly it's ridiculous, and yes, it's supposed to be ridiculous because that's the character.
It's supposed to be ridiculous, like that's
like he is acting like he's the alpha, I don't know what Jim Bro, like, and he's so over the top, and the machismo. I like the part. I really do.
I thought it was absolutely hilarious. And actually that's one of the things that didn't fall apart for me the longer I watched it. I still like it.
Right. I still do too. And you know what's funny?
Stupid.
Is it presents his character change, and all along during that sequence, you're still like, you can't help but really just love Tobey Maguire's Peter in that sequence.
No,
like,
you still liked him. You still
liked him. He's acting like a jerk, but you still liked him. And then that shifts when he takes Gwen and dances in front of Mary Jane. and all of a sudden it's like a big shift in like mood. And to me, like, I don't know, it was very cutting when she asks, like, who are you? And he's like, I don't know. And like
when he ended up hitting her during that
right,
bar
he
fight,
hits her. Yes,
I thought that was played because right after that he went up to the cathedral. It was right after that, and it's like I thought that was scripted and played very well because that's not a side that you want to watch for too long.
Right.
That's not a side of Peter that you don't want to start to hate Peter. And
right. And
it even clicked him as a hero. Like, whoa, what the fuck? Like, what just happened?
It woke him up real quick.
Yeah, and I thought that was really, really good. Well, that was good writing, I think.
Oh yeah, I totally agree. And the cathedral scene is powerful. I love that whole sequence. So as much as people say, oh, it's cheesy, yeah, it was like very intentionally cheesy. Like that moment is incredibly self-aware.
You couldn't, it was self-aware, exactly. You couldn't get away with that now, but if anyone can get away with it, again, it's Sam Raimi. Because the whole fucking movie, everything he does has a quirkiness to it. And with Spider-Man, he couldn't direct.
What it reminds me of almost is that part. I don't know if you've ever watched like Baz Luhrmann, who does like some literature. He will take an old piece. So have you ever watched The Great Gatsby?
With Leonardo?
Yeah. No. Yeah. That's the one. Yeah. I love that movie, and that's a Baz Luhrmann directed film, and he's also very quirky. He did the Romeo and Juliet remake in the 90s too with Leo and all that. And he makes some really quirky films that are acted, in my opinion, very strangely. Like the way he directs is very odd. And yet it works, and it comes together in this very charming way that you can't recreate it very easily. And like you said, to your point, I think there's very few directors who can do that in such a way that it comes out where you're just like, wow, that was really good, and not just like, wow, that was totally stupid.
It's so hard to ride the line. It's almost got to be like a natural talent thing.
Yeah.
It really does have to
and
be like,
I think it's evident.
You can't force yourself to do that. You either can or you can't, and don't try if you can't, because it's going to fucking fail.
One of my other big gripes while we're on 3 is Harry Osborn becomes New Goblin. And one, I'm gonna say, I have a thing with names, and the fact that he's actually called New Goblin, like that's his official freaking name.
I never knew that. Is it really?
Yeah. Look, I swear it is New Goblin. That's literally what it says. And then the fact that he looks like he just dropped out of a Mountain Dew commercial.
Yeah.
Where
I was going to say like a Monster energy drink. Yeah.
Extreme Goblin. It's just like no. What are you doing? Like that was like make him Hobgoblin or something. Like why?
Yeah, he should have been He really should have been Hobgoblin. It doesn't make any sense.
Why would you do like if you're not going to make him, or just give him an updated Green Goblin suit? I don't care anything but what you did, because what you did was bad, and it's awful. Like,
and we don't even know if that was Sam Raimi's idea or not. I don't think we have a clue. I mean, a lot of that movie wasn't his. You know what I mean?
Right. And we don't know, but the name, the costume, like it didn't feel like he was angry at Peter.
That feels like a producer's idea to try to get
really
the kids involved. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Like it's so on the nose for a snowboarder and all that. Like that feels like a producer's knee-jerk reaction. Like, hey, let's get the teens they'll buy the toy. No, they fucking won't. They won't. They don't give a shit.
So are we in agreement that the Sandman is the best developed villain in that movie?
Oh, by far. By far. Yeah. And I mean, to the point, speaking of special effects, when he was becoming the Sandman, in that pit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Which has been
Yeah.
talked about ad nauseum. But
Sure.
holy shit! Like when he goes to get the ring, and his hand like falls apart or whatever he went, like
Yeah.
it was fucking heartbreaking.
It was, and not only that, but I mean, you can't even find effects like that today. Like,
no, you can't.
They're not out there. Like
fucking Sam Raimi, man, he can. I know he's a weird director, but he can nail effects, and he's always been that way.
The one gripe I have with Sandman in that movie, and it's a problem. I understand why they did it in hindsight. In some ways, like I really love the themes of forgiveness at the end between, of course, Peter and Harry, and then of course, Sandman and Peter, and Mary Jane and Peter, and like there's all the very strong theme of forgiveness in that ending, but making the Sandman Uncle Ben's killer, was a problem. And if you didn't want to kill Aunt May, if you didn't want to kill Aunt May or something, you had to do something to tug at Peter's heartstrings in a different way. And you kind of undid a lot of that early stuff with Uncle Ben. And to me, that was the moment that drove him to become Spider-Man. You know what I mean? Yeah. And then he didn't kill the guy there. And that, it messed up. One, it was kind of like, wait, really? Like you're retconning that to where it wasn't really that guy. And it really broke your immersion in the film. And like, if you'd been following those movies, you're like, wait, what? Like all of a sudden it's this guy, and no, stop it. Just find a different way for him to get on Peter's bad side. Like, because that wasn't it. It even seemed so forced. Like they get called in randomly to the police station. Oh, we just had a breakthrough with your uncle, with your uncle's death. And I'm like, this is bad. That was bad, right?
The case was closed. No, you didn't. There's no breakthrough.
Right. Yeah. Like it was open and shut. Like, So it was just it was ridiculous.
See, it's funny because excuse me, shit. It's funny because I didn't have a problem with it, but I didn't think of the other side for Peter's story. So until you just said that, I never thought about the effect it had of retconning, Peter's emotional state and stuff like that.
Right.
I didn't mind it. God damn it. I didn't mind it from my point of view because I don't mind. So I'm a stickler for the characters that are like A-list characters. Don't change their backgrounds, don't change their race, don't change anything about them because they are who they are and it works for that reason. But when it comes to like C-list characters like the Sandman, I didn't care that they changed his story. Right. You know what I mean? But I didn't take into account that it affected Peter's emotional reasons as to why he did what he did. And now I kind of see. No, I can definitely see your point. It never occurred to me.
It just didn't. It didn't feel right. The whole thing. It totally changes that scene when you go back and you watch the guy. Point the gun at Peter's head, because that's really the point where like Peter's about to show him mercy, right? Yeah. And then the guy points the gun at him, and then he trips and falls out the window. Like, really,
it's funny because he didn't even do it.
Right.
He didn't even do
now
it.
It's just like, oh, wait, that guy's not guilty of killing Uncle Ben.
Yeah,
so
fucked up now. Now I don't like.
Right.
That.
Now you're watching it and you're like,
yeah,
this sucks. Like that guy didn't even do it.
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah. So it's like, oh,
that shit. He just like an innocent man. Well, kind of innocence of murder, at least as far as we know.
Right. Except, granted, he was about to put one between Peter's eyes, But on the other hand,
sure
he
he's
had some
killed, but-
superhuman dude chasing him down. Like, yeah, he robbed the guy, but he didn't kill nobody.
Yeah, that's fucking crazy. I never thought of that. Oh my god.
Yeah.
All right, that changes a lot of things.
Yeah, right.
Well,
So
still, one of the last thing we'll talk about, because it's really quick. I like it when, again, and me and you write stories kind of the same way. I like it when there's a beginning, a middle, and an end. And the ending of the third movie did not give you any semblance that there might be a fourth movie. It was done. All the circles of story were closed. It ended with Peter and MJ dancing to a nice song, and like you said, the themes of forgiveness. It had an ending, and it was done. There's no quadrilogies. There's not 5 or 6 of them. There's the original trilogy idea that you should never go past, and it was a solid. It became a solid trilogy. I really appreciate that. I really appreciate that.
I like how it left off on this this moment of, you have Harry passing, you have Sandman kind of flying away, Venom's been dealt with, and it's just like there was all this forgiveness going on, and of course Mary Jane has to find a way to forgive Peter, and I think that was really the thing that I really wish would have been a little bit more obvious. Like I really needed to see that, like him make that right with her. It's implied, but I would have really liked to see that a little bit more explicit. And I think that's what No Way Home was kind of alluding to. Like when Peter says, like, it's had its challenges, but we make it work or whatever. I think that's part of what, they have an up and down sort of relationship in that trilogy. So it's interesting. I wonder what's happened beyond that, but you're right. There's nothing really, it puts a nice little bow on it. It's not perfect, but it does wrap things up and tie up the loose ends pretty nicely for the most part.
Yeah. Yep. What are you looking for, babe?
Just charger.
Oh.
So
second
on
one,
the 2,
not a whole lot of gripes.
With 2?
With 2, yeah. I think it's a little bit long, to be honest. Like, because I've seen that movie a lot, and I think there's a little bit in the middle, although it all works, right? I think the middle just slows down a little bit. That's all. Honestly, I don't really have many. There's some cheesy dialogue. There always is. It's Sam Raimi. I think Spider-Man 2 is considered one of the best comic book movies ever, and I think it definitely deserves that.
Yeah, it's funny. I don't have a ton of gripes with it. I don't love the Peter losing his superpowers storyline in it. I don't love that. In fact, I don't even get really why it happens. Like, I kind of get why it happens, but I don't really get, like, I don't know. He just kind of gets it back, and I don't know. To me, it was just kind of like, it wasn't really what I wanted. It was only the second movie. You know what I mean? Like, I want to see it build on the story with him as Spider-Man. Like, I didn't want to see, I don't know. Like, it feels weird. It was kind of my same thing with the Nolan trilogy with The Dark Knight. Like, watching The Dark Knight Rises start off with, like, decrepit Batman in his mansion, not really doing anything cool. Like, I wasn't ready for that. Like, if you've been doing this so long that, like, okay, yeah, maybe toy around with some of those ideas, but I don't know. To me, it was like, it's a second movie, and Spider-Man's lost his powers, like, already. Like, are you serious? Wait for, like, part 5 or 6. But that's me. I don't know.
I didn't mind it. That may have been a little bit what slowed it down. You know what I mean? I don't really think it, quite possibly, maybe if you had taken those, like, let's say, even if it's just 12 minutes all put together, 12 minutes of footage, it may have not felt so long in the middle. And that could have been it. I didn't
Yeah,
mind
I
it.
feel like they could have gone at that a different way. Like, I just feel like rather than having him lose his powers, if you really want, I like what they did with showing his frustration with the, the responsibility that being Spider-Man has become, because that of course kind of comes full circle to Uncle Ben. But I really wish they just, I don't know, I felt clunky. There's just something I don't love about it. But oddly enough, as good as ever, and everyone always says this one's their favorite. I probably watched it the least, and
Me too.
Yeah,
I said I've seen it a lot, but I've seen all of my movies a lot.
Right.
That doesn't really mean anything. I've seen this one probably all the way through the least.
Yeah, for sure. And
that's weird. I wonder why. That's really strange because I love it.
Right. It's not a bad movie by any means. I think Doc Ock and Norman, the way they're presented, they follow very, very similar character arcs. Actually, if anything, maybe I don't like the losing his power thing because it almost feels like, I don't know, it almost feels like they're rehashing the first one a little bit. Like Peter starts with no powers, and you've got this benevolent, scientist who then becomes insane. It's almost like they follow almost the same character progression, really, except that in this one, Peter kind of starts with the powers and then
starts with the powers, yeah,
and then has to figure them out again. So it kind of halfway follows his progression with the Spider-Man powers from the first one. But I
think it follows. I think it's a definite and emotional progression, like you said,
right,
about carrying that much responsibility. And does he have to? Like, should that be all one man to do? I didn't mind it, but if you had cut it out, I might have watched it more. I don't, because again, right, it feels kind of long in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And with Norman and Otto, I feel like I said, it's very, very similar sort of progression, but I tend to like Norman more. So that's just me. I don't dislike Dr. Octopus, but to me, it did feel very similar to Norman Osborn's arc.
For me, like Norman, it didn't feel similar to me, besides the fact that they started out normal and then became a bad guy. But that's pretty much how every character arc in comic books works. You start out normal, you
more or less, yeah.
You start out normal, you become a bad guy. It didn't feel the same to me because Norman was already he was an asshole. He right from the very first scene, he kind of treated Harry like crap. He was bad before he was awful. Whereas Dr. Octopus was just maybe a little arrogant about how much he could handle as a scientist, but loved his wife, mentored Peter, and was a very likable person before he lost his mind. So I think to me, the character arcs don't feel the same.
That's interesting. No, it's a good point because he is a jerk to Harry pretty much from the beginning. It's funny. I don't know why I'm so gentle on Norman before he starts to go on insane. Like, to me, I guess he didn't feel like he's definitely tough on Harry.
There's not a lot of screen time, before he goes insane.
It definitely felt like he was tough on Harry, and he definitely obviously held Peter in high regard. And obviously that fueled some of Harry's feelings and stuff like that. But I didn't hate him. I didn't think he was a bad man. I think he was a little I think he was a little the way I kind of got it was he was just kind of unaware of some of the, maybe didn't appreciate his son as much because, while clearly he holds intelligence to high regard and he saw Peter's and kind of recognized that. And gosh, even it's hard, like, especially as a parent, like I can envision myself talking way nicer to some of my students and my kids because my role
sometimes I know, and sometimes it's fucked up, but it happens. I totally get
really
that.
Does. So maybe as a teenager, I didn't pick up on
like
that.
the kid though, but it's just like
right,
the kid who's nicer to the babysitter than they are to you. You know what I mean?
Right.
Being comfortable sometimes makes you. It's a little, you slip over to the dark side sometimes. You know what I mean? It's easier because they'll forgive you. You know they're not going anywhere.
Right. That's a good point.
Hopefully they won't need counseling when they're 30.
Right. So I definitely I think that's where I was at with him.
It's funny because I think you're going way too far into his character. I think it's funny because when I see Norman Osborn, and maybe it's just my history with comics, I don't know. But when I see Norman Osborn, I see narcissistic businessman who turns into an evil goblin. And I don't go any deeper than that.
Interesting.
That's all I see. That's all I see.
As far as comics go, and this is kind of part of my wheelhouse in comics. I've got a lot of history with Spider-Man. I would say so I'm not unfamiliar with comic book Norman. I think I just got a different vibe from him in the beginning of this film, and it didn't quite feel like and he's kind of he becomes obsessive over completing this. Like, he's very driven to get this deal and to have this thing work out. And but it seems almost to me like, again, I could see myself inadvertently be sounding kind of like he came off with Harry and Peter, or like, to me, like when I forget the other doctor's name, but when he says that it has to go back to formula and he turns around, like, to me, I always saw like the back to formula line was kind of half like shock and desperation. Like, wait, what are you talking about? Like, to me, I'd never interpreted that as like, he was super angry and like out of his mind at that point. Like, I think he just wanted this MacGuffin so bad that it was driving him to not see the consequences of his actions. And then, of course, the tests on himself would
There's
totally
the crazy bastard.
Right. It would take that passion and turn it into something dark. And obviously that's what happened. But I saw Norman
everything you're talking about. Everything you're talking about was definitely there. Like, I'm thinking back on it. You're right. He didn't turn around and go like back to formula. Like, you're fucking fired. You know what I mean? He didn't do that. It did look like more like, so everything you're saying, it was in the movie. I definitely see that. Yeah.
To me, it was just interesting, but I also agree with you that Norman is presented very differently in the comics traditionally. He's definitely much more of a jerk.
He's more of a Lex Luthor.
Yeah, thank you. That's what I was looking for. Yes.
Yeah,
that's exactly it. He was much more of a Lex Luthor type character. Yeah. And I didn't get that vibe. So, but back to 2, you're right. It's kind of weird. I don't have a lot to say about it because it's just a really solid movie.
It is.
Pizza Time is now famous for
like the most charming, like your favorite word is charming. The most charming aspect of that movie were the little montages where nothing's going right. Like, he spins the bike wheel and it bounces out the window. Like, I remember laughing out loud in the theater.
Yeah.
When he gets a thing of flowers and he gives the guy the money and the guy takes back like 5 flowers. And now he's left with like 2 daisies just hanging there. And I'm like, that's fucking Peter. That's Peter Parker.
Tobey Maguire has this really magnetic quality to his acting. And he's one of those people that for some reason I can just watch. I wouldn't say in anything, but if I have to watch it, I'm going to really enjoy watching
anyways.
Right.
Yeah, there's not a lot to watch anyways.
Yeah, he is in Gatsby, and I thought he was phenomenal in that as well. Again, same charming Tobey Maguire I knew from the Spider-Man films. And it's so funny though. Like, that movie is it's kind of solid front to back. It doesn't really do a whole lot wrong. And it's very entertaining and very I think I like the ending a lot because it's like it was the one. Like when I watched Spider-Man 3, I wanted there to be that explicit like thing, like that makeup between Peter and Mary Jane. I wanted to see that, and it's implied, but
there's that
love.
scene.
Yeah, I love that scene too. I'm a big sap. I love their love story, and I just want to see that. So I think I love Spider-Man 2 because at the end it's like happy, right? Like
Yes.
it's the one where they end up the happiest, and then by 3, very early on, like Peter's really kind of gotten a big head and sort of self-centered, and it's hurting her, and that bums me out. It makes me sad.
You know what? Okay, here's the fucked up part about that. I will actually slightly disagree.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's fine.
I think Peter did not get a big head. Here's now I may have thought different 15 years ago, but after life happens and you learn some shit about people, all right? She was pissy because her career wasn't doing what she thought it would do. And Peter wasn't full of himself. Peter was finally fucking happy. And he was there for her and he was supportive of her. But she's just like, I'm not doing well and you never listen. Well, I'm sorry, I had to go save a fucking baby in a burning building. I'll be right back and you can keep talking.
I do think she had a little bit of a gripe though.
And she was acting like a spoiled brat, to be honest. Like she was miserable and she was mad that Peter was happy. And maybe I'm reading into that, but
you know what? No, that's really interesting. I think it's a little bit of both. And you're right. She was taking a lot of those things to heart. I do think Peter was kind of like not really validating what she was saying a little bit. And men do tend to be more solution oriented anyway. So he's making analogies and comparisons to his own. I am like the king of doing that. If you're telling me something that's going on with you, the way I relate is by telling you how I've experienced something similar, or like, and I don't mean to do it. It's not trying to make it about me. It's just me trying to empathize with that. And I recognize how, especially through Peter here, how that might be misconstrued at times. But I do think that he wasn't really acknowledging her, and he does give Gwen the kiss, which I do think is really insensitive.
Oh, there's the man.
I love that scene.
No, dude. Okay, he gave
the kiss with Gwen.
That was fucked up, and I will say that would show that he was a bit full of himself, or at least, I would say a little bit full of himself. Yeah.
And he was oblivious to her feelings.
I forgot about that.
She calls him out on that and says, "Did you not think about how that would make me feel?"
Yeah, that's fucking retarded. Yeah, you're right. He was a dickhead when it came to that.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But again, I do think it went both ways. but my heart broke when he because I've always been a Mary Jane guy, by the way. Gwen Stacy, I don't care. Now it could be just the era I grew up in because I was born in the mid '80s, so I grew up. It was Peter and Mary Jane.
We only knew Mary Jane. Like I didn't know who Gwen Stacy was for a long time. You know,
and of course now I appreciate it, but I love Mary Jane, and I most certainly loved her in these movies. And I was just like, dude, what are you doing? Why would you do that to her? I was so bad at it. But regardless, we better touch on the first one if we're gonna wrap up the show. We could talk a while on these three.
Yeah, we got 10 minutes. So the first one, again, I think mostly solid movie. I don't know. Like, honestly, the first one is probably the one that I watched the most. I'll still put that one on, even though I really don't like the Green Goblin's costume. Other than that, and cheesy lines, okay, they all got them. It was fucking good. It was just good. It had all the elements there. It had the origin story, which wasn't at that point overdone. It showed it gave a good relationship between him and Uncle Ben before Uncle Ben died. So you've got to really
Yes.
feel like that's important. You can't just have a person die who's only had a few minutes of screen time. You've got to really care about them.
Yes,
Seriously,
and they
paved the road.
handled it all
Yeah.
masterful, like amazingly well. I'm not sure, like that's still got to be top 5 superhero movie for me all time, easily.
Yeah.
Like that first one. And it's among the most entertaining movies to me to this day. I actually saw that one. I would have been about 16, saw it in theaters, and instantly was in love with it. I absolutely loved that film. The cinematography is amazing in it, in many parts. I know Goblin's costume, it is a gripe for me. I didn't really think about it that way back then, although I did ask myself. I remember being in the theater going, why is the Army developing a suit that looks like that?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
that's why I still think the original, the animatronic mask that they had, which looked incredible, I think that would have made much more sense.
I do too, Brittany.
Yeah. And Brittany's making some great points. The CGI was incredible. At that time, it was mind-blowing, really.
At that time, it was fucking unreal, dude. And
Yeah.
okay, here's the thing, though. Honestly, a lot of it still holds up.
It does.
A lot of it.
The only scene that really doesn't look good is that shot of the board members being deleted. That one looks bad.
All the CGI on the bridge when the Goblin's holding up Mary Jane. I mean, honestly, like you said, except for that one scene, all the CGI, which by the way shouldn't be possible. It should, by today's standards, it shouldn't be possible that looks better than a $350 million movie. It's not possible.
The Flash.
That's the fucking way it is.
It looks better than The Flash, for sure.
It looks better than dude, even Ant-Man, like all these movies, none of them are below 250. None of them are below 250 anymore. Why? Because they're laundering money. But anyways.
But regardless, the scene, I mean, since we were just talking about the kiss in the rain is still one of my favorite scenes ever.
MTV Movie Award Best Kiss Scene. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it was absolutely it was everything I wanted. Like you related to Peter, like the beginning, like the way they set up his character, him chasing down the bus. Yes, beautiful. That scene.
Beautiful.
Yeah, it's amazing. And
it's also good, like as a man, like you have stay out of these conversations because I think leave cinema ruin print comics.
I think they did that to themselves, though, Pops. But I'm
telling you, I think comics ruin comics. I don't think anything bad could have happened. If anything, if we could have kept,
anything, cinema should have revived a love for comics, and I think in many ways it did for at least a little bit.
I think you know what happened? It revived it, and this is the fucked up part. It revived the love of comic book merchandise. I don't think it had many, and maybe let's say out of all the people that love the Marvel movies, I would say 3%. I'll give you 5 on a good day. Went and said, I'm going to go see what the comics have to say, because by that point the comics were so different than the movies. You couldn't go pick up a Captain America and read the same Captain America that was being shown in the theater.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I think it revived it gave nerds a voice. It made nerd culture cool. It revived merchandising.
It really did.
It didn't do anything for the comics. That it shouldn't have had to. The comics should have been fucking fine on their own. If you keep the fucking purple and pink hairs out of it, it would have been fine. But they didn't, because they weren't supposed to. That's not part of the plan.
Yeah. It was, we should definitely have a show on that whole topic. And like I said, sorry. Anyway, the first one though is still, even Macho Man being in it is freaking.
It was great. It was great.
It's like you're going nowhere.
Nowhere.
Right, it is one of the best sequences. Like everything about that movie is just super endearing, and it's really to me, the way Norman did talk to Peter in the beginning, like the whole thing is really, it is heartbreaking. Like you feel like he had a real respect for Peter in the beginning of that movie. And you could make some arguments about, whether that was legitimate respect for Peter or just.
He did. He did. Peter was the son that he wanted. Peter had the IQ and Harry didn't. That's all Norman really cared about was the smarts.
And I think he definitely came off that way. And then he kind of realizes later on, or at least, in a way does, and kind of manipulates Harry, but through the goblin there.
I'm gonna rectify certain inequities. Like,
right.
Who the fuck talks like that?
Yeah. I don't know. It was
awkward Sam Raimi scenes.
Yeah. I would probably talk like that though, so it works.
You might, you English teacher, you.
Yeah.
Prison Mike wouldn't. Prison Mike don't talk that shit. He don't shiv.
But one thing I just remember that movie really was that it really it's so funny. It means so much to me because like I said, I was about 16 when that came out in 2001, I think. And it felt so I don't know, it was just a special time. Like
you were how old were you?
I would have been 16. So
okay. All right.
I remember seeing that movie and it was just amazing. And of course, you're in your youth and stuff like that. The music, I love the theme song to that movie with Chad Kroeger and Josie Scott.
Yeah.
Like Hero is a great song. And I don't care if the internet tells me to hate Nickelback. I don't want to, so shut up. Sorry. That's how I feel about that. I could go on a rant about this, but I'm going to try not to.
Dude, we just said that we both like the dancing scene in the third movie, so we're already fucked. It don't matter.
So maybe next week we can cover not like whether we should hate things because the internet says so, kind of thing, and discuss some of the things.
Let's do it. Let's make that.
Here's
that. Okay.
Movies.
Okay, good.
Movies, bands, and songs. I don't know. Songs that the internet says we should hate, and we just don't feel like it.
Got it. There it is.
I think that's at least good for half a show, anyway.
No, it'll be a good show. I love telling people to fuck off.
Right. So
I don't care. I don't give a shit. Look at that. Look at this photograph.
I think that song got heavily overplayed, but it's still a good tune.
I think most of Nickelback got heavily overplayed, but like Nickelback only had like on every album, it seemed to me, they had like one or two songs off the entire album that would be played nonstop. So like the radio like made you hate Nickelback. It's almost like,
which was weird because they had like a lot of those albums, like they released a lot of singles off of, and a lot of them were really good. But the ones that were played the most, people get sick of Rockstar, but it got played. I got sick of that song.
Nonstop.
Yeah, hang on. Let's save this for next week.
All right, because
I'm gonna get out of rants.
We're gonna save it. This will be a good
We're gonna
time
save
next
it.
week. It'll be a really good time next week.
I don't feel like we said enough about that first one. How about Flash Thompson, real quick in 10 seconds? Flash Thompson in the first Spider-Man film.
I thought he was great. I thought Flash Thompson was a great character. Now later on in the comics, obviously they become friends. But
right.
I thought he was. That's the best part about the Sam Raimi movies is even the Flash Thompsons were Flash Thompsons.
Right.
They got the comic accuracy right. And,
yes.
And I think that's the most important part. That's some of the stuff that the X-Men movies didn't do. You know what I mean?
Right.
It was,
and part of the reason I hate those movies.
Part of the reasons you hate those fucking movies. But they really, even a Flash Thompson, again, I hated Flash Thompson in the new ones.
Oh yeah, I didn't like him at all.
They had that.
It was like, who's this?
I don't know. He's not Indian. He's a football star. I know. I get that we've seen that person before, but he's an archetypal character. It doesn't really get old if you do it right.
Even what they did with Mary Jane's character was so stupid. How like,
oh, I know.
Whoa, it's not Mary Jane until the end. Then it's like, oh, her name is Mary Jane. Like,
we got you. We'll slip it in.
Twist. So brilliant.
I hated the whole world they built. That whole Spider-Man series. It just doesn't feel right. None of it feels right.
You hate it even more now that you know Ned is Hobgoblin.
Yeah, that's fucking lame. Like that's who the hell would have written, and that's when you know, like they don't care, they don't give a shit.
I heard if they continue that series when they're a few years older, that Ned finds out about, I don't know, somehow figures out what Peter did, and I somehow twist that into, you know, Peter cost them his true destiny or something like that.
If they ever do that movie in the future, Ned's gonna figure out that he's always been a woman inside, and he'll have to freaking get his junk cut off because they'll never make a movie that makes sense anymore, and they're not so exactly. And that's how I'll look if I ever fucking see that movie. It'll be fucking horrible.
Where are the drugs going?
Where are the other drugs going?
Yeah.
I fucking love it. All right, dude, well, I tell you what. What are you doing Friday?
I don't know.
All right, maybe we can do it Friday because I don't have a guest on this Friday. So maybe me and you can get together again and go over some pop culture. Why should we hate it?
Yeah, we should do that. And
let's make that. If you got something to do, I'll just do something else. But for now, if you're not doing anything, let's have you back on Friday. Yeah,
sounds good. Yeah, I'll definitely be down with that. That'll be interesting.
Cool.
Yeah, there's definitely some bands.
I actually don't want to wait till Monday. I want to do it like now.
You know, that's fine.
I like to end the show. I want to do it now, though.
I know. Well, tell you what, write down some movies and some other things that pop culture says we should absolutely despise.
Oh, that won't be a problem.
And we'll go
My
from
mind's
there.
always thinking of things to despise. That won't be a problem. That
Right.
won't be a problem.
All right. Hey,
All
you
right,
have
guys.
a good night, buddy. Thanks for having me, as always.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is our show tonight, so I'm not having anybody.
That's true.
This is our show. This is our show tonight.
I'm still thankful.
Yeah, it was a good time, man. Good time. And
Indeed.
I will see everyone. Maybe we'll both be back on Friday. You guys have a good week.
Sounds good.
Take care.
Hey, yo, it's me, Pops Fan Marmalade, and you're watching the Comics-Related Madness Network. Uh-huh. So come get some. CromCon.
Comic Books for Kids provides comic books to kids in hospitals and cancer centers across the U.S. It's a place where we can all work together to make sure every child has a comic book. 100% of all proceeds go towards the kids. It's about making a difference, and while they're in the hospital, allowing them to fly like a superhero, battle dragons, or rescue teddy bears. We are in every state in the country and now support over 160 hospitals. Every month, we add more.
Visit cb4k.org.